through the grace of God, through good friends, through my wife, really of most people through my wife, I've really have gotten over this pornography addiction that inflicted my life since I was 12 years old. And it was actually a year into our marriage when she realized, we've been married for 7 years, when she caught me with my pornography addiction. And it's been a grueling 7 years. And, I joke around to some buddies and to her, and I say, yeah, now that I got this porn thing figured out, now the real work begins, right? Because I'm also a prideful guy, I'm also a vain guy. It's now I really have to buckle down. But the conquering over the porn addiction has taught me has been I have those God-given intangibles to face these other, inflictions that I have in my life. I have the confidence, I have those habits, stacked now, where I can take that energy and now, confront, the deeper things.
Fire and water me, going down deep, say, oh, bury me, carry me, oh, far beneath, oh, fire and water me, watching me clean, give everything free, yeah. Oh, give everything free, down to the river. Down to the river.
On today's episode of Sheepdog and Shepherd, we are going to have some super raw, authentic, kind of uncomfortable conversations on something that, quite frankly, I'm embarrassed to say used to be my favorite topic and is now something that is shameful. I think as men, we probably can all share in an understanding of the war that we face in this realm. And so today we're talking about internet porn. So why don't you kick us off? That was a really lousy open, huh? Go ahead, tell everyone who you are.
I can talk pretty heavily about this subject. Yeah, my name is Greg. I'm a pastor at the Church of 1122, and I lead our prison campuses and our first responder ministry. I'm a chaplain with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office and one of your hosts of Sheepdog and Shepherd.
Now, Greg gets mad at me when I say things like he's professionally trained in Christianity. He is. I mean, the guy's a pastor. That's like the doctor of, I don't know. But me, I'm just a guy. And I'm just a guy that loves Jesus and that wants other men to experience a transformation that I've experienced. I'm still a broken, screwed up dude.
Me too, bro.
Every single one of us is as men. But in that walk of faith, when we discover a relationship with our Heavenly Father, it begins to change you. It begins to change your heart, and it begins to wake you up to the mistakes that you've made in the past. So my hope and prayer is that you're not watching this going, oh, these are three dudes who think that they're better than us. We're three dudes who are just as broken and screwed up as you are. And yet we have discovered something that is helping us in our spiritual journey. So with that being said, why don't you tell everyone who you are, man?
Yes, thank you guys for having me. My name is Joe Alto. I'm a clinical therapist based out of Cleveland, Ohio. And I primarily work with men with the umbrella category of men's issues. So that's anywhere from, you're having trouble with your wife, fatherhood, anger issues. But a lot of it is what we call in the game, sexual compulsion issues, right? So pornography. Right now, actually, in the psychological guide or manual that we use to diagnose, there's actually no such thing as porn addiction, which is wild. However, there are certain ways still to help men in this infliction that they have. So I help a lot of men with pornography addiction. I help a lot of men with infidelity issues, help a lot of men. Even things like, in the category of infidelity issues, chronically going to strip clubs, chronically engaged in prostitution, things like that. And in addition to my clinical practice, I'm also one of the key players at Relay Health. Relay is an app, really the only app on the market that was created by therapists, other higher ups in men's health, psychiatrists, etc. And what really our mission is to help men gain freedom from their pornography addictions. Really what we say is you don't have a porn problem, you have a pain problem. And I think, probably as our conversation goes on, we'll probably dig into what that actually is. But we're all about, guys, we're about saving families, saving marriages, saving souls, to be honest with you. We'll probably get into that too, right? That, pornography addiction is really like a soul sickness when you really, dig into it. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
I'll tell you, man, I think if I were to come out to, hire you for your services and walk in and see a dude who looks like a freaking male model, first of all, I'd be like, this isn't the guy for me. Because I'd start to feel bad about myself. And then you and I got to talking, and I was like, man, this dude is so relatable because he gets it. Like, there was no BS. It was all just a very raw and authentic conversation. I think that's probably the best way to start this conversation. We're launching this. We've expedited the production of this particular episode to align with a November challenge, right? Let's kick off with that.
Yes, and that's a great time to tell you. So yeah, Relay is actually launching a 30-day initiative called the November Project, right? So I don't know.
You're good. Go ahead.
If you're listeners, so November is known as No Nut November in the brosphere of the internet. And what that is, it's been a cultural movement for some time now, but I think what happened is they leveraged down the whole No Shave November thing, and they decided, men probably everywhere decided, I shouldn't necessarily be doing this, or pornography is playing a huge impact in my life, so maybe I should take a pause. Well, we're really leveraging off that cultural movement, and like I said, it's called the November Project. It's a 30-day initiative to really help men and women, but mostly I think we're targeting men, to be honest with you. See how they can live a life free of porn, right? Really, our question is, what does your life look like if you can be porn free for 30 days? A lot of the guys I work with, a lot of my buddies, a lot of just the guys I know are not or have not ever been porn free for 30 days since the time they were 12 years old, right? But again, that's the question we're asking. What does life look like? There's absolutely no evidence to suggest this, but it's just my personal belief that the black thread that has kind of been weaving through all these tragedies we've seen lately, whether that's Charlie Kirk, other mass shootings, etc. I do believe that the fragile psychology of these individuals who carried out these tragic moments probably have been addicted to some type of more than likely hardcore pornography, and that really rewires your psychology, right? So when that psychology is rewired and your reward system is completely thrown off, right? And if we were having a more scientific conversation, I would probably talk about dopamine receptors and how. But anyway, when your psychology and your brain is rewired, it could lead to the possibilities of doing some pretty tragic things, right? So again, the real question is, what does your life look like 30 days free of porn? And what we do is we'll send out emails and text messages every day to, give the individuals who subscribe to the challenge some type of motivation, some type of educational lesson, and then some type of mini challenge, right? And then also putting them in community. We've found that really it's community that really helps with this struggle that you're going through to be free from porn. At Relay we say that connection is the opposite of addiction. So when you can open this up, when you can tell your brothers about your story, when you're not in it alone, it allows you to have accountability, and it allows you to have that freedom. Yeah.
So I remember first time I was exposed to any porn at all was at my house when I was a kid, and my parents had no idea.
Yeah.
But this was back in the day when there was Spice Channel, and it was scrambled. And so unless you paid for the Spice Channel to come in crystal clear, it'd be all wavy and scrambled. And you're sitting there as a 11-year-old boy, and you snuck into the living room in the middle of the night, and you turn that on, and you're like, look, I just saw a boob.
That's right.
And you could hear everything, and it begins to bring you down this rabbit hole.
That's exactly right.
And I'll never forget the first time I had a conversation about internet porn. It was always something that was very private, right?
Yeah.
That's not like, if you have to close the door and put down the curtains and the shades and do something in the privacy of your hotel room by yourself, that should be the first wake up that like something is wrong, because Jesus doesn't hide in the light.
Yep.
And there's something symbolic, I think, about that darkness. So the first time I ever had a conversation about it was my best friend, former Navy SEAL, who is now in Congress, and he said, "So have you ever struggled with porn addiction?" And I was like, whoa, bro, like we joke about porn. We don't talk about it like that. And he was like, yeah, man, like everything's great and it feels good when you're in that moment. And then after you just feel like really dirty and bad about yourself. And that was the first conversation that I had with another grown man where I was like, wow, something is wrong there. But I think for me, in my experience, we've talked about this, how we grew up Catholic, right? And in CCD, I remember the CCD instructor saying to all of the boys, we were probably 13, 14 years old, if you masturbate, you are more likely to die of cancer or to go blind. You can't make this stuff up. Yeah. And I'm only like 13, 14 years old, and I'm like, that can't be true. Like, that's gotta be BS. And so when you get education like that through the church, that doesn't exactly develop a level of biblical trust. Yeah. When something is just, clearly they are trying to teach us to not do this, but that's not how to do it. Yeah. And so I think we need to start having more raw, authentic conversations about our first exposure to it and where it led.
Yeah, I think you said something a few minutes ago about connection is the opposite of addiction. That's right. And I think addiction is the thing that hides, it keeps you, isolation is the thing that keeps you in addiction, and community is the thing that brings you out of it. Right. I think that's so critical. And for me, in my walk through life, the times where I have been the healthiest is when I've been in community, and the times where I notice that I'm not healthy is when I've been isolated, I've been alone, I've kept things hidden. And so I think connection and community are the most critical parts of being able to walk out of the things that you've kept hidden. And for me, there's, we at the church, we have, Pastor Joby talks about having mat carriers, the guys that carry your mat for you when you're down on the mat and you can't, the guys that carry you to Jesus when you need to be carried to Jesus. Yeah. You can't get there on your own. And for me, there, I've got like 10 or 11 guys in my life that are my mat carriers. And when I'm real and authentic and transparent with those guys, those are the times in my life where I feel like I am fully bought into community. And so I would say that if there are men out there that are listening to this that don't have that community in their lives, it is critical and vital to get community in your lives. And so I would encourage any man.
It's the vital thing. And you really touch on, specifically on the Relay app, that is exactly more than, the psychoeducation or, we use this thing called the 3 circles model in the app to help you fight abstinence, boundaries, and self-care, right? More than any of that, though, the subscribers of our app will say that the most impactful thing is the community feature. We throw people in, we throw these guys into these like sub communities, and exactly that. You have these accountability partners. You can, in our app, you can like raise a red flag if you're, on the precipice of looking at porn. It's like a bad signal. It flares out to the whole community, and guys can give you encouragement. But overall, you guys touched on so much. I mean, Kyle, I want to go back to what you were saying about even that like first time, and that's just like so true. This is why this addiction is so tragic, is because you go into it innocently. Like, I know for me, it was, I walked upstairs and I saw my brother looking on the computer at, a pornographic video, and I was like, what's that? I'm 12 years old, right? And at first what usually happens is, you do it, it's fun, right? At some point though, in the life of every man, you start using pornography as the baby blanket. So although it's like innocent at first, right? You're 12 years old, you start looking at it a couple times a week. Okay, it increases. Well, then all of a sudden you don't make the baseball team, or you ask that girl on the date when you're 13 and she says no. And you feel that pain, and what do? You go, I'm gonna look at porn. What does your brain do? So it makes a connection, that pain, you're feeling negative emotions, right? But this thing that was highly stimulating, right? A super stimulation, if you will, it makes you feel better. It doesn't actually make you feel better. It just like relieves, it gives you that like, somatic release, if you will. And so then what you just did is you created a connection between pain and porn, and you link them. And you take every painful moment that you have now, right? And now you use pornography as your baby blanket. And just the way that really like our culture and has functioned recently, like what we think about sex, what we think about pornography, you don't really think it's a big deal, right? It's just like something that you do. So the pain plus the combination of the cultural acceptance, it just really fuels this addiction. I mean, I'm 33 years old. I don't think that there is, sincerely, like I don't think that there's a guy out there who's 33 that has not been addicted to porn at some point in his life. I agree. Please, audience, prove me wrong, right? But I really don't think it's a possibility with just how accessible it was. Sure. My parents, I was, I don't even know, probably 12 years old in like 2006 when really home computers started getting super accessible even to the middle class, right? So your parents have no idea what's going on with this internet, and it's just free range, right? And this is how this addiction fuels and fuels and fuels. And then again, what happens tragically is, you get married one day for the most part, and your wife catches you, and she goes, hey, we're gonna get a divorce if you don't, get this figured out. And that's when men are usually on their heels, and that's their first pause, and that's their first, cognizant thought of this is a serious problem.
Well, I mean, think about it like this too. So again, when we were growing up, there was, starting at 10 p.m. in the commercials on MTV were Girls Gone Wild commercials. Yeah. Go buy this clip. All sorts of things like that. And then you could go to The Wall or Circuit City back then, or Best Buy, and you could buy this DVD when you turned 18. Yeah. But you had to wait for a certain hour.
That's right.
It was after 10 o'clock. It was, you had to sneak out and go to the store and buy it, and then hide it under your bed and hope that your mom or dad didn't find it, but hope that if either one found it, it was your dad, because he probably wasn't going to whoop your butt as much as your mom.
That's right.
Because he would get it because he's been there.
Yep.
Now, dude, it's in our hands.
Oh yeah.
24/7. Yep. I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't Pastor Joby preaching last week. I got a little bit distracted during the sermon, and I was getting texts, and I went to open up the text on my phone, and I accidentally clicked on the Facebook notification, and next thing you know, I'm in the middle of a sermon on Facebook, and I'm getting AI porn ads served up to me when I'm at church.
Yep.
It's that accessible now. It's that prevalent, and you want to talk about rewiring your brain, like when it permeates every aspect of your life. And when kids are being given cell phones at 10, 11 years old, we are in a war. And Eli once said to me, he goes, bro, the devil goes after you where he knows he's most likely to get you.
Sure.
He goes, I know you from your 20s, and it was hot chicks and pride. That's how he's going to go after you.
Yep.
But that's not necessarily how he's going after my brother here.
Yep.
He might go after him through Ben and Jerry's ice cream. I don't know, he gets me through ice cream too. But so I think that the devil's always going to go after us where we're most vulnerable.
Yeah.
And porn is an Achilles heel for every single dude. And I'm so grateful that you guys are leading this war.
No, I appreciate that. And I think about all like the tragedies of porn. Another one is, one of my favorite authors, C.S. Lewis, in Mere Christianity, he talks about how really like sins of the flesh are not even like the greatest of sins. Right. And it's like, how many dudes just get to the point where the only like real sinful actions they ever confront are sins of the flesh, right? Because you spend your whole years battling this addiction. You don't even get to the real complicated stuff, right? The wrath, the pride, the greed. And so it also just, it makes you, it inhibits you spiritually, right? In so many different realms, it inhibits you spiritually.
Well, and it's also the nexus for so much crime, too.
Yes.
From human trafficking to drugs to illegal weapons running. I mean, the porn industry is the hub of all of that. And, you know, I will never forget a conversation with another brother in Christ who said, yeah, you ever think that, you know, back in the day when you were looking at porn all the time, that you would one day have 4 daughters? Mm-hmm. And I was like, he goes, what if someone filmed your daughter doing that or made them do that? What would you do? I said, I would be looking for 10 acres and a backhoe.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to bury them. It's simple as that. I'm probably going to bury them alive, too. When you start thinking about things not like a 20-something-year-old horny dude, but rather as a man of faith and as a father and as a husband, it just begins to change you, man. And what you're doing is capturing people, hopefully before they even have to get to that turning point in their life, and making them aware and having these conversations. Pastor Joby always says you can't wrestle in the dark, right? Because you're going to get your butt whooped. And if you think that you can control your sin, you can't. Your sin is always going to control you. And I think internet porn for guys is the single greatest example.
I think that's why his point about C.S. Lewis's quote was so important, because our enemy uses those things of the flesh to keep us so busy fighting against them that we don't even have time to deal with the internal things that we really need to be focused on. The things like the pride and the anger and all the things that are spiritually eating us alive. The physical things are eating us alive, but the spiritual things are so much more important. Not that I'm lessening the physical sin.
No, of course. That's why it's a difficult conversation to have. You know, in my own personal life, through the grace of God, through good friends, through my wife, really of most people through my wife, you know, I've really have gotten over this pornography addiction that inflicted my life since I was 12 years old. And it was actually a year into our marriage when she realized, we've been married for 7 years, when she caught me with my pornography addiction. And it's been a grueling 7 years. And, you know, I joke around to some buddies and to her, and I say, yeah, now that I got this porn thing figured out, now the real work begins, right? Because I'm also a prideful guy, I'm also a vain guy, you know, it's now I really have to buckle down. But what the conquering over the porn addiction has taught me has been, I have those God-given intangibles to face these other, inflictions that I have in my life. I have the confidence, I have those habits, stacked now, where I can take that energy and now, confront, the deeper things.
But I also think we have to look at it as, I don't think we'll ever conquer a porn addiction. I think it's alcoholism.
Yes.
Right? You will stop and you will get right with Jesus and you will not do it. But guess what? You go through a real dark period in your life and 3 days of back in it, and that is going to come roaring back.
Totally.
And so I think that that's where, to your point about community and about surrounding yourself, starting the day in the Word, having a good group of dudes that I know I can call him up. He's one of my Mac carriers, man, and he will give it to me straight. He will punch me in the mouth if need be, and I'm very grateful for that. But we will never be able to win a fight with alcoholism, much like we will never be able to win this.
No, and I actually very much agree. And that's another, I've been using the word tragic a lot today, but that's another tragic thing that I see in some of my clients, right, is you have to self-monitor basically for the rest of your life. Right. And it kind of sucks, right? I don't have social media because I know that's a boundary for me, right? It's we talk about boundaries on the Relay app, right? It's I know that might not lead me to any good place, right? My wife knows that might not lead me to a good place. Yep. And it's you have to give things up. But it's when you look at it, what's more important? Your sobriety, your relationship with your wife, or 3 seconds
quick
of
fix.
Yeah, exactly. Of some type of hit that you're not even necessarily even enjoying, believe it or not.
Right.
That's
Absolutely.
the crazy thing about porn as well is, guys, we think we know what our tastes are for women. I like blonde-haired girls. I like brunette, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of the times it's actually the porn that has given you these tastes, and you don't even know if they're actually your real tastes.
Right.
So now, even in your personal relationships, when you're trying to date a girl, you think you know what you want, and then you feel it's oh well, but she's exactly what I wanted. She looks exactly like how I want her to look. But in the pit, you're just oh, what's this about? Like, I don't feel congruent.
But even think about the expression that a lot of guys will say, oh, I'm looking for a lady in the streets and a freak in the sheets, right? Where does that stem from? That doesn't stem from biblical values.
No, it does
that
not.
stems from porn and having unrealistic expectations of what a sex life should look like.
Of course.
I mean, that is where you start going down really dark roads of what is it, asphyxiation.
Yeah.
I can't even, thank God I'm not into any of this stuff. Whips and chains and torture and bondage and pain. Like that's not part of a healthy marriage. I'm not saying you can't have a strong, enjoyable sex life in marriage, but there's a difference between the dark demonic side of things that porn leads us to.
Sure, because if you follow the biblical model of what marriage was created to be, then God is fully sufficient to satisfy your sexual desires in your marriage.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point because I think you emphasize the whole, idea of you can still be like, you can have a chaste marriage, right? Like you can still express the virtue of chastity even within your marriage. And Kyle, no, you are exactly right. I mean, the evidence shows that, you start off with Girls Gone Wild infomercials.
Yep.
You're probably not going to be looking at Girls Gone Wild infomercials for the next, 15, 20 years. No, it's going to get increasingly more and more hardcore.
Just like marijuana, man. I mean, you start with that marijuana high, and next thing you know, you're doing coke or heroin, and then you're on the meth, and
Yeah, because like a heroin, the first time that you see, a naked woman, you think if you're 12 years old, the first time you see a naked woman, you're just like, whoa, right?
So that National Geographic magazine was a game changer for me.
You need a bigger high, man. You need a better high.
So you keep on chasing this high, and then you get to places
100%.
where, and don't even get me started. I mean, that's probably another conversation, but actual demonic imagery, like legitimate satanic symbolism in hardcore pornography videos. This is not a coincidence, right? Like there's a reason why they're putting this in here. And so, yeah, I mean, there's multiple ways to talk about this. When you talk about like the clinical side, I think to be safe, like, you wouldn't, use this type of language. But I also think, that's one of the reasons why I think a lot of men are still struggling, even if they've gone through like more like secular, systems, right, of recovery. It's because, sure, there's like all these different elements, right? There's psychoeducational, there's a cognitive piece to it, there's community. If you don't have the most important pillar, which is God, you're toast.
For sure.
Like you're toast.
For sure.
Where can people learn more about the challenge?
Yes, go to www.thenovemberproject.org. It launches on November 1st. Sign the pledge, receive text messages or emails, and you will start getting, like I said, those text messages or emails every single day to help you in your fight for freedom. Again, it's not a porn problem, it's a pain problem. A lot of these viewers who might be struggling with this, they have a lot of nasty pain inside of them they have to exercise out. And yeah, me and my guys at Relay, we're here to help with that challenge. Thank you, guys.
And how can people learn more about Relay?
Relay, yes. Go to www.joinrelay.app. That's joinrelay.app app.
Awesome.
I'd also encourage you all to get involved in a good Bible-based church.
Yeah.
It was transformative for me and my family. I know for you also as you were Catholic and then changed and now our focus is on a relationship with Jesus. Regardless of your denomination or where you go to church or how you study, get a good Bible-based church, do some Bible study. I highly recommend Church of 1122 because they don't pull any punches. Pastor Joby's not afraid to talk about everything from internet porn to fighting with the devil to spiritual warfare. And so just get in the fight, regardless of whether you're Christian or Jewish or Muslim, get in the fight for your soul. It begins right here and right now. Thanks for hitting that share button. God bless you all. God bless America.
Most homeowners feel safe after locking their doors and setting their alarms. But alarms only alert you once somebody's already inside your home. And your doors? You can lock them, but the most vulnerable part of your home remains completely unprotected: the glass. Unprotected glass can be fully compromised after a single strike, leaving your home exposed in seconds. Glass is often never thought about until it's too late. Clear Armor Residential changes that. We strengthen your home where it matters most. For our installation process, we begin by measuring your glass to ensure an accurate fit and finish. and then we cut the material on site. Once the laminate is prepared for installation, we professionally clean the inside of your windows to ensure an optically clear look once the product is installed. Our team of experienced technicians then install the laminate on your glass with great attention to detail and precision. You're only billed for what's installed on your home, and you're never charged for any sort of wastage. Now, the most vulnerable part of your home is protected and will stay protected without any monthly fees or loss of power. Once installed, Clear Armor safeguards your home 24/7. Backed by a 10-year warranty, you can rest assured knowing your family and property are secure. If you're looking to have your home protected, visit us at clear-armor.com.